Well guys, the government has found itself in a right shit spot these last few days after it backtracked on giving the sheeple their so-called Freedom Day. As some might know, the Tories lost miserably in a by-election to the Lib Dems of all people. This embarrassment is only beaten by the fact that Labour got a piss-poor 622 votes. Yep, the Labour Party, one of the two big political parties, managed only 622 votes or 1.6% of the total vote share. Shit, I reckon I could have got more votes than that if I'd have run as an independent up there, and given that I'm not one of these fucking tosspots, I never would have done that anyway. Now the Tories' loss in a 16,000 vote swing is related to HS2, new planning laws and their recent backtrack on reopening, along with the general authoritarian lunacy helping them get shit on because Tory voters literally just didn't bother to show up. This in a seat the Tories had never lost since it was created back in '74, so a crushing defeat that shows they are not untouchable when it comes to the voters. But I should say it does not really mean much outside of those issues. Remainers are calling it a Brexit issue, but they've been smoking crack if they actually think that's true. Now away from that, it seems Uefa might be forcing Boris Johnson into some more bullshit to make him look like a bit of a tit. They're going to force him to either backtrack on delays to ending the restrictions, or more likely force them into allowing 2,500 VIPs into the UK without the quarantines and bullshit us peasants have to submit to. This is because they're threatening to move the knockout stages and final from Wembley to Hungary, where they've opened up with full stadiums and no hotel quarantines. Naturally, as I said, this has put the government in a right shit spot because at the end of the day, either one's going to make Boris Johnson look a bit stupid. If they bring forward the dates off the back of this, people will say they lied about the reasons for keeping them in place the other day, which the media have even reported themselves, so we actually know they did. Now there is a 5th of July reopening being touted with the semi-finals being played on the 6th and 7th. Obviously, this is no coincidence. But they could also just leave the restrictions as they are and let VIPs enter, which will rightly piss the public off. And in fact, many of them might stop listening to these idiots completely. Now that in my mind would be good, because if it wakes up the sheeple to the bullshit they have been belt-fed, then it's obviously good news. Though to be honest, I think most have now reached a point where the government's lies are actually getting harder and harder to believe. People who supported them without question are now asking what the actual fuck is going on here. It's only taken them over a year, but they have wiped the bullshit from their eyes, it would seem, or at least some of it, should we say. Now the Mail did an article on this, as do a few others, so let's see what they actually have to say. It says UEFA threat to strip the UK of Euro 2020 final unless its VIPs are spared quarantine. Ministers are set to bow to football chiefs' demands and let 2,500 in while millions of Brits are unable to go on holiday. Yep, they will piss in your pockets and tell you it's raining because VIPs are what matter, not the worthless peasants as you know. It goes on, cabinet ministers are set to bow to UEFA demands to waive quarantine restrictions for thousands of VIPs after the football governing body threatened to otherwise move the Euro 2020 final from Wembley to Hungary. The government is said to be discussing a proposal to exempt 2,500 designated VIPs, including UEFA and FIFA officials, politicians, sponsors and broadcasters from having to self-isolate on arrival into England. UEFA officials have been threatening to move the semi-finals and final to Budapest, which will have no border restrictions for travel from next week, if they do not ease the rules for VIPs. But in a move likely to spark a fierce backlash among the British public, the VIPs attending the games at Wembley Stadium would not have to abide by travel quarantine rules imposed on ordinary travellers. Which all I have to say to that is let's hope the government is stupid enough to do it, because I would say it's going to piss off a hell of a lot of people. Then naturally after that you will see people refusing to listen to their bollocks and in the end just saying no. That is what we need, millions of people to just say fucking no. But if this plan is true, then it shows that this government is literally just taking the piss out of you. I don't know how many times we'll need to point it out. Eventually though, I reckon people will see, because their piss taking is just getting to new levels every single day. Now guys, before I go, remember to check out my website that's linked down below, along with my BitChute and Odyssey accounts, should YouTube decide to shit-can me, which is always possible these days.